Right then, so today I'm going to be doing a little video to show you how to do 45-degree corners with laminate worktop with a router. Okay. Right, so the piece we're going to try and make is like that. The laminate worktop for a 45-degree corner. Okay, you see the joints come off at what are they? Well, we end up with a 90-degree angle on the end. So the straight bit of 60 centimetre deep worktop butts straight up to that, and the same on that side. Now, there's a few little tricks up my sleeve. My first little trick is, well, the worktops are 60 centimetres deep, and our carcasses are 560 millimetres. Let's stick to millimetres, shall we? 560 millimetres from there to the front edge, and the worktops 600 millimetres. So that means we have a 40 millimetre overhang. Okay, so what I've done is I've got some scrap material, and I cut that down to 40 millimetres, and I've cut a 22.5 degree angle on each end, and I've made this piece fit there, you see. So the points of the piece point perfectly in line. So what I've done is I've made something that represents the front edge of my worktop. Yeah, now I work from the front back. I don't work from the back forward. Now, I'm not too worried about what's going on at the back because I've got upstands covering it. Okay, I just want a 40 millimetre overhang across the front edge of all my worktops. So we've got a fridge freezer going there, so we've got a straight cut there, and then we're going up to there, 45-degree corner, got a hob in the middle there, going round, sink base there, worktop going across there, and two appliances under there and there. Just a quick overview of it all. Now the glue that I use is Cascamite, and it's quite important because we're going to be right next to the join there, aren't we? So we need something reliable, and Cascamite is waterproof and reliable. Okay. Right, so outside now with me trestles and my routers and things. So I've cut down a piece of 90 centimetre, 900 millimetre worktop to 1,350. So it's a convenient length to handle. And cut it down with a jigsaw in the hole, put some blocks of wood underneath it, run a jigsaw through it. It doesn't matter if it's too scraggly, the line on the edge, just getting it down to a manageable size. Right, okay, then I found the middle of it, so 1350, 675 was the middle. I've got a little tiny mark on there. Yep. Right, and I've got the middle of me my little jig thing that I made. Yeah. Put that in there. Right, and then put a little line there. Okay. Right, so you have to have a router jig, a worktop template router jig that's capable of doing 45-degree corners. Not all of them do. It's normally the bigger ones that do it. So this is my rather nice aluminium Makita one. Yeah. Right, so that's that little pencil line that I drew off of the side of my little the jig thing I made. Now you have to set that out 8.5 millimeters for the guide bush. Okay, now it's not crucial on this one obviously because you could adjust it on the other one later on, but that's the jig in position. You've got the metal pins there and there, and we're going to be routering this groove here through to there. Okay. Right, notice how I put the clamps on this side, not that side, because I'm going to be removing that offcut in a minute. Right, there's another little trick now that I'm going to be doing. So I routed just this little short bit here, yeah, all the way through from the top all the way through to the bottom, yeah, and then I'm going to go from this side and I'm going to router this way, pushing against that side of the fence. Yeah. I'll trim off this piece with a jigsaw after that, so it's less work on the router, and then I'll router all the way through from this side, pushing against this side of the fence, until I've got a nice clean cut. Yeah, and then when I've done that, I'll come back from the beginning here and I'll router all the way through in one pass, one sweep, pushing against this side of the fence for the final cut. That way it reduces all the vibrations and things to this side of the fence, where you'll end up with about 1 millimetre of material left over, which would be probably quite a little bit raggedy because the vibrations of having to do all the, you know, the bulk of the work of removing the chipboard. If you do that, then the last pass is cut with a nice sharp bit of the router cutter higher up, which doesn't get much wear and tear. Okay. Now, I'd just like to point out, I normally wear ear and eye protection for the purposes of making this video. It's easier to be able to hear and see what I'm doing. Blower, get rid of your dust. Always wait for your router to stop before you lift it up, otherwise you'll take a dink out your jig. Right, so I'm all the way through now, yeah, but pushing against that side, so I should have about 1 millimetre or half a millimetre left on this side now, which I can do a good clean final cut. You want to go nice and slowly on this cut so that you don't vibrate the router cutter much. Right, there you have it, that's that joint. Right, something else to point out. You have to router one side of the joint from the top, and then the other side, yeah, you have to router from the other way up. So it's to do with the direction of the cutter of the router. So from the top on this side, you get a nice sharp line there, but on the off cut, you'd have a horrible breakout. Yeah, now you don't want a horrible breakout on here. So if we were doing this side, we were routering from this side, you have to router from this direction back to here. It'll break out the front and leave it all chipped there. Yeah, so that's why you have to turn it upside down and do it from the other side. Okay. Right, so back to my little jig. Remember this piece? That represents the front edge and the overhang of the worktop relative to the units. Okay, so it's got 22.5 on it, which is the angle that we got on here. So I'm lining that up with the front edge. Yeah, and then draw a line there. And obviously that's where my router cutter needs to go. It needs to come off that edge there. So working from the underside. Eight and a half millimeters back to allow for the guide bush. G-clamp that on there. And some deep-throated G-clamps. Right. I won't bore you with doing this one, but I'll show you when I've done it. Right, so I've routed the front edge there. Where is it? There. Yeah. So I'm all the way through just the front edge. Okay, and I've routed a line along there like that, so I know where my jigsaw's got to go to cut that bit out. I don't always do that, but it does make it a lot easier work on the router. You only have to kind of like cut out almost half the amount of material, and also it's got somewhere for the sawdust to fly out instead of being stuck in the groove. Okay, so it's a lot easier to do it, but you have to be careful because you don't want to risk chipping the laminate with the jigsaw. Okay. Now on this last pass, so I've cut all the way through now. Let's just see if you can see in the groove. I've cut all the way through now, but I've cut on this side of the fence, so I've still got about 1 millimetre of material left over. Now I'm going to go from the other side of the fence now. I'm going to do one clean sweep all the way through, except the last couple of millimetres where the laminate is. Yeah, so that way I'm going to remove all of the material back to the finished line. Yeah, except the last 2 millimetres of laminate, and then obviously I'll do that in one very slow, smooth sweep. So that I minimise the vibration down the cutter on that last final sweep, because obviously that's going to be your jointing cut. Yeah, okay. Right, pull up bolt holes next. So gone 100, 300, 500. Yeah, so I'm going to have 3 pull up bolt holes and route them out on my jig like that. See, that's the front edge. Right, that's the pull-up bolt holes done. Now I've got to cut it down on this side now, and so I'm going to measure 60 centimeters from this corner here back to here, 600 millimeters. Yeah, and then I'll use a panel, like an end panel, one of those. Right, to use for 90 degrees to mark it up, and then chop it off with a rail saw. Okay, it's going to get covered up by laminate upstands, the join on the back edge, so I don't need to be too tight to the wall. Right, so I've done 2 corner bits, so I'm just doing the other bits, the intermediate bits. It's exactly the same process for the joints. Obviously, on your router, see if I can get that in. Come on, steady. Right, I'll turn the camera around. Right, so I'm doing the intermediate bits. They've all got a square edge on them, if you like, with the 22.5 bit there. Right, it's exactly the same process that I showed you on the other ones, and glue and bolt them up. So I'm not going to go into detail of doing these bits because you'll just get bored. So I'll catch up with you when it comes to gluing up. Right, so I've cut all the bits now. Let's give you a little tour in the next clip. I've prepared the pull-up bolts. These are the pull-up bolts. Okay, put some tape around there, some insulation tape. That just holds that bit steady. Okay. Right, so we've cut all my lengths all the way around. That's the hob one. I've got the hob in the middle. 45. I think one there. Right, now this is the glue I use. It's powdered resin with glue. It's sometimes called Cascamite, but other brands are available. This one I think is, I can't remember. I'll think of it later and I'll tell you, but it's basically the same stuff. Now you want to mix it up so that it's like a yogurt consistency with water. Okay, now when you do the pull-up bolts here, you see I've cut these holes in this unit so I can get my spanner in from underneath. So you can lift up this worktop here and put the bolts in with that end with the tape on. It just holds that bit steady so you can control it from here. Yeah, they've got all my bolts ready. Now I'm going to glue it up. Now when I glue it up, the idea is to make sure that you've got glue on the top edge, yeah, of both surfaces, right? But you want to minimise the amount of glue in the chipboard because the glue's got water in it, and water's going to make your chipboard swell up. If you've got too much glue in there, the chipboard's all going to swell up and it's going to hold your joint apart. So you just really use it for the purposes of sealing, yeah, the top edge, stop that water getting in there when it's gone off. All right. Right, then you want to get yourself a ratchet spanner. Okay, and this is a Teng one. It's quite good. It's got a little lever there. You switch it like that and it goes the opposite direction. There's a good reason for that. You can get your spanner stuck in there otherwise, where you can't undo the nut. If it's one of those sort of like Halfords ones, you know, and it'll do up, but it won't undo unless you take it out and turn it round. But if back nut's gone all the way over so that you can't get to it, kind of put your finger behind the bolt, put some tension on it, and it pulls up tight. Lovely jubbly. Come back when I've done them all. Right, you don't want it too tight to start with, just pull them up tight, pull them up so there's a bit of tension on them so you can still move the joint about, and then you can adjust the joint with a block of wood and a hammer if necessary to bash it out. So, I mean, some people use silicone, okay? Now, I found that the trouble with silicone, not only does it not keep the moisture out, but also it's quite a slippery material, isn't it, until it's sort of set. And what you want is you need a bit of friction on the joint so that you can kind of like almost bend the board, because if one of the boards cups like that, you need some tension on it so that you can kind of like, you know, get it flush in the middle, and then bash that end down whilst keeping that bit where it is, so that you kind of bend the board, you know, to take out any warping in the board. Nothing straight in carpentry. Right, that's the joint nice and tight. Now that's Cascamite, might be water-based glue, but once it's set, it's waterproof. So you need to make sure you wipe up any spills, otherwise it's a real pig. Especially if you've got something with quite a grain to it, you know, like this. Just give you a close-up of the joint. Now this board lends itself quite well to joins. Hang on, get this gimbal right. There you go. it kind of this board lends itself to joining quite well. You know, if you had a white board or a creamy coloured board or something, then the join's going to be a lot more noticeable. But this kind of rough, rustic looking laminate kind of lends itself to joining very well. Yeah, and so that's that. So I'll go around and get all the other boards jointed up, and I'll see you in a minute.